Hello everyone, Jason here. It's been a little while since I made a video, and in a few minutes you'll understand why. I've been going through a deep rethink of just about everything I know. Has to do with spiritual teachings that I've been following over the last 8 years. Just a little bit about me. I was born and raised one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And Jehovah's Witnesses is a Christian religion. Jesus is followed, and the Bible is followed. They do lots of Bible study. But I was a devout Jehovah's Witness for up until my mid-20s, where with the internet coming along and being able to do research on my own, my faith in the Jehovah's Witness religion broke down. But I turned to something else. I turned to science. I became an atheist. And I was like that, living a hedonistic lifestyle for a while, until I went through a divorce. And at that point, I started looking for the truth again. And so my faith in God returned. But instead of turning right back to Christianity, I first went to Buddhism, and for about the last 8 years been studying that up until just recently. And there's something I came across during my study of Freemasonry that, well, it's forced a complete reboot on my part, and I want to share it with you. It's all about breaking down the deceptions that we all come across. If we each do that and share it with each other, our path to the truth would be really quick. So I just want to take you through a few things right now, and appreciate your time. Hope it helps you out. Let's get on with it. So I want to read to you something from Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike, 1871. This is found at sacredtext.com. This is in the 18th chapter, Night Rose, and I'm going to start reading from about the middle of page 277 through to the beginning of 279. And I'm going to pick up some really important things here. Starting here, all antiquity solved the enigma of the existence of evil by supposing the existence of a principle of evil, of demons, fallen angels, an Ahriman, a Typhon, a Siva, a Locke, or a Satan, that first fallen themselves and plunged in misery and darkness, tempted man to his fall, and brought sin into the world. All believed in a future life to be attained by purification and trials, in a state or successive states of reward and punishment, in a mediator or redeemer by whom the evil principle was to be overcome, and the supreme deity reconciled to his creatures. The belief was general that he was to be born of a virgin and suffer a painful death. The Indians called him Krishna, the Chinese Kununtis, the Persians Soshish, the Chaldeans Duvani, the Egyptians Har-Ori, Plato Love, and the Scandinavians Balder. Krishna, the Hindu redeemer, was cradled and educated among shepherds. A tyrant at the time of his birth ordered all the male children to be slain. He performed miracles, saying his legends, even raising the dead. He washed the feet of the Brahmins, and was meek and lowly in spirit. He was born of a virgin, descended to hell, rose again, ascended to heaven, charged his disciples to teach his doctrines, and gave them the gifts of miracles. The first Masonic legislator whose memory is preserved to us by history was Buddha, and about 1,000 years before the Christian era, reformed the religion of Manos. He called to the priesthood all men, without distinction of taste, who felt themselves inspired by God to instruct men. Those who so associated themselves formed a society of prophets under the name of Samainians. They recognize the existence of a single uncreated God in whose bosom everything grows, is developed, and transformed. The worship of this God reposed upon the obedience of all his beings he created. His feasts were those of the solstices. The doctrines of Buddha pervaded India, China, and Japan. The priests of Brahma, professing a dark and bloody creed brutalized by superstition, united together against Buddhism, and with the aid of despotism, exterminated its followers. But their blood fertilized the new doctrine, which produced a new society under the name of gymnostifists, and a large number fleeing to Ireland planted their doctrines there, and there erected the round towers, some of which still stand, solid and unshaken as at first, visible monuments of the remotest ages. The Phoenician cosmogony, like all others in Asia, was the Word of God, written in astral characters by the planetary divinities and communicated by the demigods as a profound mystery to the brighter intelligences of humanity to be propagated by them among men. Their doctrines resembled the ancient Sabiism, and being the faith of Hiram the king and his namesake the artist, are of interest to all Masons. With them, the first principle was half material, half spiritual, a dark air animated and impregnated by the spirit, and a disordered chaos covered with thick darkness. From this came the Word, and thence creation and generation, and thence a race of men, children of light, who adored heaven and its stars as the supreme being, and whose different gods were but incarnations of the sun, the moon, the stars, and the ether. Chrysler was the great ingenious power of nature, and Baal and Malakarth represented representations of the sun and moon, the latter word in Hebrew meaning queen. Man had fallen, but not by the tempting of the serpent. For with the Phoenicians, the serpent was deemed to partake of the divine nature, and was sacred, as he was in Egypt. He was deemed to be immortal, unless slain by violence, becoming young again in his old age, by entering into and consuming himself. Hence the serpent in a circle, holding his tail in his mouth, was an emblem of eternity. With the head of a hawk, he was of divine nature, and a symbol of the sun. Hence, one sect of the Gnostics took him for their good genius, and hence the brazen serpent reared by Moses in the desert, in which the Israelites looked and lived. Before the chaos that preceded the birth of heaven and earth, said the Chinese Lao Tzu, a single being existed, immense and silent, immutable and always acting, the mother of the universe. I know not the name of that being, but I designate it by the word reason. Man has his model in the earth, and earth in heaven in reason, and reason in itself. I am, says Isis, nature, parent of all things, the sovereign of the elements, the primitive progeny of time, the most exalted of the deities, the first of the heavenly gods and goddesses, the queen of the shades, the uniform countenance, who dispose with my rod the numerous lights of heaven, the salubrious breezes of the sea, and the mournful silence of the dead, whose single divinity the whole world venerates in many forms, with the various rites and by many names. The Egyptians, skilled in ancient lore, worship me with proper ceremonies and call me by my true name, Isis the Queen. So I've spent the last 8 years studying Buddhism and variations of it, most specifically just non-duality. And my number one goal is the truth, finding the truth. And I've been looking all over for it, studying everything I can. And Buddhism seemed like a sort of a natural fit for me. I had grown up Christian and had rejected my faith in my mid-20s, became a complete atheist, and studied science. And really, everything, I believed in evolution, I believed that there wasn't a God, and I had gotten totally wrapped up in that. Then, after a divorce with my first wife, I started searching searching for the truth again, and came back to God, but not directly back to Christianity. I started searching for various paths of truth, and went down the Buddhist path, and really studied Buddhism and non-duality, and it's really shaped a lot of my spiritual beliefs over the last 8 years. The main spiritual teacher that influenced me the most was a Dr. David Hawkins, who blended Christianity and non-duality together into something that seemed to make sense for me. And this was my thinking up until recently. When doing research on Freemasons, I came across this. The first Masonic legislator whose memory is preserved to us by history was Buddha. And that immediately made me put the brakes on and consider everything that I had been believing about Buddhism and non-duality. And that's what I want to go into right now. So it's important for us to understand what it is that the Freemasons believe and who they worship, in order so that we can not worship anybody that they do. Towards the end of what I had read is on page 279. The I Am says Isis, the parent of all things, the sovereign of the elements, the primitive progeny of time, the most exalted of the deities, first of the heavenly gods and goddesses, the queen of shades. The Egyptians skilled in ancient lore worship me with proper ceremonies and call me by my true name, Isis the Queen. So this is what Freemasons believe in. The Hindus through Krishna, the Buddhists through the Buddha, and all the major religions have been hijacked by Satan, who the Freemasons worship. We're going to get into that, but the major religious groups, I just want to show you here, under history of religious categories, I found it interesting that just the term religions initially was just for Christians, and it's really not until recently that it's changed. It says here, at the turn of the 19th century and between 1780 and 1810, the language dramatically changed. Instead of religion being synonymous with spirituality, authors began using the plural religions to refer to both Christianity and other forms of worship. So this was something new. The modern meaning of the phrase world religion, putting non-Christians at the same level as Christians, began with the 1893 Parliament of the World's Religions in Chicago. The Parliament spurred the creation of a dozen privately funded lectures with the intent of informing people of the diversity of religious experience. These lectures funded researchers such as William James, D.T. Suzuki, and Alan Watts, who greatly influenced the public conception of world religions. I had no idea it was so recent that just the idea of religions was so new. That religion used to refer to spirituality. And if we come down here, we find the 5 major religions: Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Chinese folk religion, and Buddhism. So here I'm at JesusIsSavior.com. I'll be leaving a link in the description box. But here it says Freemasonry is straight from hell, and it talks about Freemasonry and Christianity. And so under Masonry Described, the key document from which I quote is the most readily available and universally approved doctrinal book of Freemasonry, Morals and Dogma of the Ancient Accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry by Albert Pike, Grand Commander 1859 to 1891. Its title page states that it was prepared for the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree and published by its authority. Originally published in 1871. Here, this person has the 1966 edition. Except where other sources are noted, I cite page numbers only when using this work. So here's just some key points from Morals and Dogma. And I just want to point out that under Temple of Religion, every Masonic temple is a temple of religion, and its teachings are instructions in religion, from page 213. Here's Buddha, the first legislator, from page 277, which I had read. It's not creed-bound, so anybody, be it of Christ, Buddha, or Muhammad, anybody can be a Freemason. This is interesting. Masonry conceals its truths. Masonry conceals its secrets from all except the adepts and sages or the elect, and use false explanations and misinterpretations of its symbols to mislead those who deserve only to be misled, to conceal the truth, which it calls light, from them, and to draw them away from it. Truth is not for those who are unworthy or unable to receive it or would pervert it, from pages 104 and 105. Look at what they do to their own people. The Blue Lodge, to be deceived. The blue degrees are but the outer court or portico of the temple. Parts of the symbols are displayed there to the initiate, but he is intentionally misled by false interpretations. It is not intended that he shall understand them, but it is intended that he shall imagine he understands them. Page 819. The incomprehensible Bible. The teachers, even of Christianity, are in general the most ignorant of the true meaning of that which they teach. There is no book of which so little is known as the Bible. To most who read it, it is as incomprehensible as the Zohar, page 105. The incomplete Bible. All truly dogmatic religions have issued from the Kabbalah and returned to it. Everything scientific and grand in the religious streams of the Illuminati, Jacob Boehme, Swedenborg, St. Martin, and others, is borrowed from the Kabbalah. All the Masonic associations owe to it their secrets and their symbols. Here, the Kabbalah is a book of ancient Jewish mysticism and magic. So, deities of Masonry, the energies of Lucifer. When the Mason learns that the key to the warrior on the block is the proper application of the dynamo of living power, he has learned the mastery of his craft. The seething energies of Lucifer are in his hands, and before he may step onward and upward, he must prove his ability to properly apply this energy. This is from the Lost Keys of Freemasonry, Manly P. Hall, page 48. And then Lucifer is God. That which we must say to the crowd is, we worship a God, but it is the God that one adores without superstition. To you, Sovereign Grand Inspector General, we say this, that you may repent to the brethren of the 32nd, 31st, and 30th degrees. The Masonic religion should be, by all of us initiates of the high degrees, maintained in the purity of the Luciferian doctrine. If Lucifer were not God with a capital G, would Adonai, the God of the Christians, whose deeds prove his cruelty, perfidy, and hatred of men, barbarism, and repulsion for science, would Adonai and his priests calumniate him? Yes, Lucifer is God, and unfortunately Adonai is also God with a small g. For the eternal law is that there is no light without shade, no beauty without ugliness, no white without black. For the Absolute can only exist as two gods, darkness being necessary for light to serve as its foil, as a pedestal is necessary to the statue, and the brake to the locomotive. Thus, the doctrine of Satanism is a heresy, and the true and pure philosophical religion is the belief in Lucifer, the equal to Adonai. But Lucifer, God of light and God of good, is struggling for humanity against Adonai, the God of darkness and evil. You see here, they have it completely flipped. they worship Lucifer, and they feel that the creator is Adonai with a small g, that Lucifer is the light, and that the creator is the darkness. This is what Freemasonry believes at the top. How many people really know this? The people at the top. Because we saw earlier that below, the purpose is to deceive. So Albert Pike tells us that the Bible is incomprehensible. Well, let's read John 14:6, and we'll read it from the King James Version, which is the oldest, most accurate translation of the Bible that we currently have. And at some point I'd like to go into detail about inaccuracies that have crept into the Bible and how we need to be careful about that. But so John 14:6 reads, Jesus saith unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. So how is that incomprehensible? I don't know who couldn't comprehend that. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh unto the Father but by me. We don't need a religion. You don't need to be a member of a Christian religion to understand this. All you need is to read the scriptures yourself. And it's very clear. It's, it's very obvious. So I am completely dropping, like a hot potato, any of my formal beliefs based on Buddhism or any sort of Gnostic variant, any New Age variant. We can go into lots of detail about all these, how they are. It's all been corrupted by Satan from the beginning. Lucifer, who the Freemasons worship, from the beginning has corrupted all of mankind's religions. That doesn't mean that there isn't truth. The Bible is God's word. And by studying the Bible, you can come into a proper relationship with the Creator without the use of a religion. So what I'd like to do is show you some changes that I'm making to my channel here as a result of my new understanding about the source of Buddhism and non-duality. One of the first things I did was I changed my logo, just using a picture that I took of the sun that in many ways shows that we're on a flat earth. The channel art that I put up here is another picture that I took. This water is perfectly flat, and you can tell by the angle of the sun rays here that it's localized light. It's not a sun that's 93 million miles away. So those are a couple of the changes that I made right up front. Now, another thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be starting over as far as the spiritual aspects concerned, and be getting rid of anything that is tied into any sort of Gnostic beliefs. Now, I know that not everything that I learned through Buddhism is false. It's much like the whole Alex Jones thing. It's truth mixed in with lies. A person wouldn't be drawn into it if it is nothing but lies. So there's truth in it. But while I sort that all out, I'm not going to really worry about it. I'm just going to get rid of it. Now, this Dr. David Hawkins, I can go into more detail about the deception involved with him. But he was one of my primary spiritual teachers over the last 8 years. And me getting rid of that. And then these videos right here all have my spiritual understanding that was interwoven with that, so I'm going to be getting rid of those. And I'll get rid of this one as well. Just doesn't seem practical right now. And so what that leaves me with right now is the math videos that I've done. And I'm going to be adding to that. Our math is wrong. The next topic that I really want to get into is zero. And now these videos that I have of the sunrises that I took with the Nikon P900, this one's gotten a lot of hits. You can see 34,000 views. The problem with it is it doesn't have the context of where the sun rose. It shows the sun above some clouds and you can't tell really how far away it is. This clip is in the compilation video, but all the videos were shot on the same beach during the same week. So I'm going to be taking this one down and deleting it, and then people can just look at the Flat Earth Sunrise compilation in St. Martin with clouds and birds behind the sun. It's all right there. But this one, I get so many people saying, "You're an idiot, you're an idiot." And they just don't understand. They don't have any context. So I'm going to take this one down. So we've got math videos, we've got some sunrises. I'm going to be doing a video real soon here. The solution to Tesla's 369. This is based on misunderstanding. I'm going to go into detail about the problem with Tesla and electricity, free energy, all those things. So this one will be coming down soon, but I'd like to have an explanation for it. And I'm going to be starting over. I'm going to be starting fresh. I'm going to be doing it from the Bible and with Jesus as the source, the way, the truth, the life.